pleasure to welcome you to this live transmission of proceedings on the floor of the House of Representatives, coming to you live from the network service of the NTA. My name is Dennis Adignoye. Well, judging by this order paper that we have today, it will be a bumper day, very busy for the honourable members. We are expecting about 4 bills, including a bill for an act to establish the National Assembly Budget and Research Office. And as usual, we have the chairman of the House Committee on Rules and Business, Honourable Emmanuel Okejev, to talk to us a bit more about what we should expect in today's proceedings. You're welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Right,
like you mentioned, we are going to have 5 bills today and 7 motions. One of the bills, the first bill that you mentioned, establishment of the National Assembly Budget and Research Office. Actually, budgeting is a very serious issue. It's about the most important piece of legislation that we ever get, because if there's no budget, the whole nation comes to a standstill. Now, the National Assembly, by this act, by this bill, which will soon be turned into an act, because it's coming today for 3rd reading, meaning that it will be passed today. Now, it seeks to provide the National Assembly with research materials, planning, and all of that, you know, and it will be working in tandem with the executive arm of government, so that when the bill comes over, when the appropriation act comes over from, bill comes over from the executive arm of government, it's less contentious because there would have been input on both sides of the divide. So, because we need that, you know that of late, the budgeting process has been subject to a lot of debate and untoward discussion on whether it is been properly done or not. So with this, I think we eliminate most of that.
Okay. Anything else that we might be having today?
Yeah, we'll also be having a bill for, this one is for 2nd reading. 2nd reading, like I always mention, is coming for debate, the merits and demerits of such. If it's agreed, it will be sent over to a standing committee for public hearing and more work. So today we also have a bill to establish the National Cotton, Textile and Garment Development Council to provide for the, Nigeria has thrived on the cotton industry in the past, but all of a sudden, because of problems that we've had, most of them have pulled down. I mean, the companies have closed down. And I think efforts are being made to try, because several motions have come on the floor of the House that have been targeted at trying to revive the cotton industry. So this bill is one of such efforts from the legislature to try to give legal backing to the efforts to revive the cotton industry and, in Nigeria. There are also, like I mentioned, there are several motions coming up. One of the motions is seeking to, if you like, investigate the illegal concession of some public enterprises through the approval of the Federal Executive Council. The motion feels that there are certain untoward activities surrounding the concessions, and so the House should investigate. Several of the other motions coming up are what we call infrastructure motion. Members seeking to establish a federal polytechnic in Oyo, a dualization of Ilorin Abuja highway and construction of a rail line. So a member could spring up and bring a matter of urgent public importance, which is not
we've seen in the last couple of days as well.
Exactly. So that could happen too. It will be taken if the House agrees to that.
Okay. Well, as ever, we are grateful for your input, sir. I'll let you get back to the House. All right, sir. Well, any moment from now, we shall be joining the proceedings that will be commencing shortly. But till then, we shall bring you proceedings of Wednesday, July the 5th. I'll see you in a couple of hours.
In Taraba State. Speaker and honorable colleagues, I want to formally bring to your attention the fact that Taraba State was thrown into mourning last week when our governor, pharmacist Dambaba Damfulani Sunte, died in the Johns Hopkins Hospital in USA. As you all know, he was involved in a plane crash, a plane that he was piloting, and was in treatment in Nigeria, Germany, and never fully recovered to take over his office. A consummate politician, he was one person that brought the whole state together. During the time that he was governor of the state, Boko Haram could not penetrate Taraba State. He did not allow any religious or ethnic conflicts to break out in the state. He brought everybody together. He had done the same when he was chairman of Bali Local Government Council in Taraba State. The state has been thrown into mourning because we lost somebody who was passionate for the development of the area. He was passionate for all peoples, irrespective of their tribes or religion. And he did everything to put Taraba State into a situation where people who previously did not want to go to the state started going back to the state. As a matter of fact, he was a friend of the National Assembly when he was governor. And there were times that he did all to ensure that the work of the people in the National Assembly went on well. Both members of the National Assembly that were from Taraba State, and indeed some of the caucuses that were working in the National Assembly. And so this morning, we are humbly requesting the House to join the people of Taraba State in a 1-minute silence in respect of our governor, the pharmacist, who died the month that he turned 56 years old. Mr. Speaker, this is our request. Thank you very much.
We've heard him. Anyone from Taraba State who want to pay tribute?
Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Garba Chede Ammanjulde, representing Bali Federal Constituency, and I'm from Taraba State. Mr. Speaker, my state and the people of my state were in the stage of mourning because of the loss of the father of our friend, our brother, who lost his life. That is pharmacist Damfulani Dambaba Suntai, who lost his life in USA. Mr. Speaker, Dambaba Suntai was our governor in Taraba State. As my colleague have said, during his time, we witnessed unity in the state. There's no tribalism, no ethnics, no any disunity among the members of the state. It's the person that believes in unity. And he believes in all the religions. If you are a Muslim, if you are a Christian, even a pagan, he goes with everybody. It's a great loss, Mr. Speaker. All what we are saying is that we are praying for his soul. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and let him get peace in the eternal life. And when our time comes too, we are praying to go in a successful way, in a humble way. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
And may his gentle soul rest in perfect peace. Amen.
Matter of urgent public importance. Mr. Speaker, it borders on about 1,000 Nigerians who are stranded in Jeddah, who are supposed to be passengers of Ethiopian Airlines, up to now have not been lifted. Some of them have spent close to 5 days there and running out of food. So, Mr. Speaker, I want us to consider this matter as very urgent, and I enjoin my colleagues that they should give it a leave.
Those in favor, okay, yeah. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it.
The House is worried that Ethiopian Airlines refused to offer reasonable explanation for the delays in violation of Article 2 of the Ethiopian Airlines passenger commitments and reservation. And they went further to reserve 3 persons per room in contravention of Article 11 of their Passengers Commitment Act. The House is disturbed that as a result of the inconveniences caused by Ethiopian Airlines, the passengers had to make hotel reservations at additional cost and sometimes sleep outside the airport. The House is further disturbed that over 1,000 Nigerians who were to arrive back to Nigeria on 27th of June were stranded in Jeddah for 5 to 6 days, with some not having their luggage in their possession. The House further resolved to direct that the Ethiopian Airlines should offer compensation for the flight delays for affected passengers according to global aviation rules. The House further resolved that the House Committee on Aviation should invite the Minister of Aviation and the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority and the Ethiopian Airlines to appear before it and explain the reasons for the excessive delays. 2, that prompt and immediate evacuation of Nigerians stranded in Jeddah via Ethiopian Airlines or other airlines should be made without further delay. 3, that the Ethiopian Airlines should apologize to the affected passengers through at least 2 national dailies. Mr. Speaker, I so move. Mr. Speaker, a couple of us, of our colleagues, and as I talk to you, one of our colleagues is even stuck there who is supposed to come back and has spent close to 5 days in the airport. And Ethiopian Airlines has a commitment, a contract with most of these pilgrims to airlift them to Saudi Arabia and back to Nigeria. That's a commitment. But have reneged in that, some of them staying for almost a week. Some who are lucky to arrive have their luggage not even in their possession for upwards of 10 days as I speak with you, Mr. Speaker. So, and I discovered that they don't do that to other nationals, but they throw every of these inadequacies to us as Nigerians, and we take them. I think we want to use this opportunity to make sure that they treat us with some respect in accordance with global aviation rules.
Justice, love, and charity to one another. Help us with thy grace to do only those things that will promote the unity, peace, happiness, and prosperity of Nigeria. Amen. Honorable colleagues have examined and approved the votes and proceedings of Wednesday, 2nd July 2017. The announcements. Honorable colleagues, we have in the gallery students of Baptist Mission Schools, Baptist High School, Masaka, A round of applause for them. Thank you for coming. Kindly take your seats. Also in the gallery are students of Right Steps Montessori Academy. If you're there, could you please rise? A round of applause for them. Thank you for coming. Kindly take your seats. Last but not the least, the students of Brick Hall School. If you're there, please could you rise? A round of applause for them. Thank you for coming. Kindly take your seats. The notice of meeting, honorable members, this is to invite you to the Northeast Caucus meeting with the Right Honorable Speaker today, 13th July 2017, immediately after sitting at Speaker's Conference Room 414. Announcer, Honorable Mohammed Tahir Mongono, Chairman, Northeast Caucus. Any member who has a petition to present may please rise to do so. Honorable Baba Jimmy Benson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Baba Jimmy Benson. I represent the very good people of Ikorodu Federal Constituency, Lagos State. Mr. Speaker, I have a petition titled Petition against the Ministry of Sports and Youth for non-payment of Nigerian high performance salary and agreed entitlement. This petition was submitted by my constituents, namely Mr. Michael Afilaka, Mr. Gabriel Okon, and Mr. Angie Taylor. With your kind permission, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to lay this petition before the Honorable House.
Please proceed and lay the petition. Any more petitions? Honorable Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Randolph Iworene Brown, representing the good people of Degema Bonifera constituency. Mr. Speaker, I have a petition here written by Boyomuso Brown House and signed by the chairman and secretary. The petition is about the illegal and nefarious use of the Nigerian police force by one Duma Jack Brown, and despite the fact that they have gotten a court injunction against them. Recently, they used the Commissioner of Police and 2 DPOs to seize a corpse of an old woman. So the people are asking the House to please intervene and save them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed and lay the petitions. Any more petition? Okay.
Live transmission coming to you from the network service of the NTA. We are currently live at the opening of the proceedings of today's plenary at the House of Representatives. We are currently in the opening stages where various petitions by some honorable members are being laid before the House.
Honorable Babatunde Gabriel Kolawole, a point of order, please.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, I remain Honorable Kolawole Babatunde. member representing Akoko Southwest Federal Constituency in Ondo State. Mr. Speaker, standing on Order 8 Rule 4, matters of urgent national importance. On this subject matter that has to do with the alleged killing of 97 Nigerians by Cameroonian gendarmes, I therefore wish to seek the leave of the House to, 1, take this matter as urgent, and 2, set aside relevant rules to enable us to take this very important motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Seconded to the first limb of the motion, Honorable Johnson Oguma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Honorable Johnson Agwahide Oguma. I represent all the people of Etako Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise this morning to second this very serious motion that my honorable member from Ondo has just moved. As a second, Mr. Speaker.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Second limb of the motion, Honorable Ishaka Ibrahim.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, all. Honorable Ibrahim Ayokone Kiaka. I represent the very people of E4, Ewepuru Federal Constituency. I'm from Ogun State, Mr. Speaker. I rise, Mr. Speaker, to second the motion, second leg, ably moved by our honorable colleague, Honorable Kolawole, to set aside the rules of the House to enable us to take this all-important motion as raised by him. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Kolawole, you can now move your motion.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker. Once again, I represent the good people of Akoko Southwest Federal Constituency in Ondo State. Mr. Speaker, the motion before this House has to do with the alleged killing of 97 Nigerians by Cameroonian gendarmes. The House notes that last week there were several media reports that 97 Nigerians have been killed in Bakassi by Cameroonian gendarmes because they could not afford a 100,000 levy on each fishing boat. Further notes that this is in spite of the clauses in the Green Tree Agreement signed between Nigerian and Cameroonian governments, which protects our citizens in the ceded areas from harm. Concerned that apart from these recent attacks, there have been reports of harassment, rape, and killings of Nigerians by the gendarmes over the years, with the Nigerian government seemingly doing little or nothing to stop it. Further concerned that if nothing is done to stop this ugly development, other Nigerian lives will be at stake, as the gendarmes may continue to kill Nigerians at will without fear of recriminations. Aware that though there are reports that the federal government has summoned the Cameroonian ambassador over the killings, there is need for this House, as the People's Parliament, to send a clear signal that it will not sit and watch while the lives of our citizens are wasted with impunity. Resolve, 1, to strongly condemn the killing in clear and unmistakable terms. 2, to mandate the House Committee on Foreign Affairs to A, invite the Minister of Foreign Affairs to brief the House on efforts to stop such occurrences in the future. B, work out the compensations that must be paid to the affected families. And C, to make it clear that such an action in future will be a declaration of war. 3, to observe a moment of silence for the departed souls. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Seconder first. Chairman, Foreign Relations Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for yielding the floor to me, and I want to thank my colleague for bringing this very important motion to the floor. My name is Nenna Elendu KJ, member representing Bende Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm from Abia State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second. This motion is moved by my brother. I so second.
Honorable Kolawole, please lead the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Permit me, Mr. Speaker, to quote Chapter 4, Section 33, subsection 1 of our Constitution that gives right to life. Mr. Speaker, just yesterday, the leader of the House affirmed that it is the duty of government to protect lives and properties of Nigerians. I got this troubling news last week that 97 Nigerians were allegedly murdered by Cameroonian gendarmes. And I asked why. The reason given by eyewitness and reports from our national dailies is that they were murdered because they couldn't pay the sum of 100,000 levy for their fishing boats. I will want to draw the attention of this House that there is a bilateral agreement between the Cameroonian government and that of Nigeria, specifically the Green Tree Agreement that seeks to provide security for Nigerians living in these ceded parts of Cameroon. Mr. Speaker, this is the House of the Nigerian people. This is the Parliament of the Nigerian people. We must not sit back and not take a position on this matter. I'm aware that the executive have invited the Cameroonian ambassador on this very important and sensitive issue. Just at the wake of the xenophobic attack, which of course I must commend Mr. Speaker for putting up a delegation. But we must all recall that no lives were lost then. But this time around, we are talking of about 97 Nigerian lives that were allegedly lost. And as a parliament, Mr. Speaker, we must not sit back and not take a position on this very matter. The prayers are very, very simple. It's for us to, as a parliament, investigate this matter and also ensure that if it is actually true that these individuals were murdered, I'm not bringing up this motion because Ondo State is affected. I'm also aware that Akwa Ibom is affected. I'm aware that some other states in the country. And as a matter of fact, this is not just the parliament for Ondo State. It's not just the parliament for Akwa Ibom. It's the parliament of the Nigerian people. It affects all Nigerians. I'm therefore seeking the support of this honorable House in order to ensure that the necessary action is taken on this matter, and also for us as members to honor this departed soul with a moment of silence. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, I so move.
Chair, Foreign Relations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for recognizing me. Again, my name is Nenna Elendu KJ, member representing Bende Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm from Abia State. Again, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the mover of this motion. And of course, he's highlighted that as the House of the Nigerian people, that it is our responsibility to, of course, wade in at any time that Nigerian lives seem to be at risk. But, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to point out that these lives are allegedly 97 lives that have been taken. And so, Mr. Speaker, sir, we shall redirect the debate to act on the premise that until there's a confirmation of these deaths, that we will deal with it as alleged deaths. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, sir, this House will recall that in the 7th Assembly, there was a lot of talk, there was a great conversation about the Green Tree Agreement. And of course, when the statute of limitation on the appeal of 10 years came by, this House of Representatives created a committee that interfaced with the executive arm of government in the hope that we could ensure that the agreements, that the contents of the Green Tree Agreement were followed to the letter. And of course, this Green Tree Agreement, Mr. Speaker, had in it that the people of the Bakassi region of Nigeria, which was ceded to Cameroon in that judgment that has been the source of a lot of controversy, Mr. Speaker, that the people of Bakassi shall be within that agreement, treated with the utmost respect, that they shall be allowed to keep their culture, their means of livelihood, and that they will be protected by the Cameroonian government. Of course, there was also a clause that dealt with the failure to adhere strictly to the Green Tree Agreement. Mr. Speaker, sir, just in the last assembly, this House of Representatives did everything. Of course, we brought up the argument that the Green Tree Agreement had not been control. On the engagement. To the have all the
Thank you. An issue have been it but there's a village that has been ceded to Nigeria because it was give and take along the border. It was not a straight line. But that one that was ceded to Nigeria, because of one reason or the other, it was not demarcated, and it becomes a point of contention. It creates a lot of tension in the system. I'm of a view, Mr. Speaker, as an amendment, in as much as we admit what the Chair for Foreign Affairs has said, we will also include that
the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should tell us how many communities has not been demarcated, those that have not been pegged, because the pegging is the final answer to this problem. Once it is pegged, it is clear whether you have crossed one territory or the other. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm voicing out this because it is the common happenings along the borderline. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Rotimi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Prince Rotimi Agunsoye, representing Koshofe Federal Constituency of Lagos. Mr. Speaker, what we are talking about here has to do with lives, whether the place is seeded or not. If 97 Nigerians, although we are still going to investigate it, if 97 Nigerians could be killed in such a manner, whether they are in America or wherever part of the world, I think it is not justified. Why? Because they did not pay for fishing, maybe some amount of money to fish, and they could now use instruments of mass destruction to wipe out Nigerians in that area. Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues, I think it is important to let our people know that there is a time and a season for everything under the sun. A time to be happy and a time for sober reflection. A time to gather together and a time to scatter. Mr. Speaker, a time to be born and a time to die. Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues, this is the time to be there for every Nigerian. We are facing too many wars at this time. This is not the time for any Nigerian, whether you have the right to stay there or not. This is not the time to just be killing our people anyhow. Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues, we have Cameroonians stay in Nigeria without the right papers. Our immigration should rise up and do something in this regard. Mr. Speaker, this is a time for sober reflection. And I hope we need to help ourselves because God has been there helping us. Thank you.
Chairman, Rules and Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Jeff, I represent the good people of Buruku, my dear colleagues. I'm from Benue State. Mr. Speaker, two things. One, right from the mover of the motion to subsequent contributors, it is very clear that the issue of death is still in the realm of speculation. The issue of death is still in the realm of speculation. So the less we talk about, we debate this matter, the better for the image of this House. I think we should just refer the matter and let them come back and tell us what exactly has happened. Now, based on that, I've also submitted, Mr. Speaker, an amendment that for now, we delete the issue of a 1-minute prayer. Let's wait for 1 minute silence. Let's wait for all of that to come back from the committee, what the committee will come up with. So that's my contribution, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy, Rules and Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Dr. Bodi Ayorinde. I represent Owo Federal Constituency. On the basis of the explanation, I rise to second the motion, ably moved by the Chairman, Rules and Business.
The outcome of
colleagues. Dear colleagues, this motion has people. Member
of the motion.
I represent
Its name. You can now take your motion.
Thank you, right honorable colleagues. Honorable Speaker, thank you, honorable colleague. As I said, my name is Chidoka Obina, Idemili North, Idemili South Federal Constituency of Anambra State. Right honorable Chair, Speaker, I rise this morning to move for a motion for a resolution calling for the inclusion of Anambra State amongst beneficiaries of the Federal Executive Council approved funding relief funds, which include states like Sokoto, Edo, Ekiti, Osun, Akwa Ibom, Kebbi, Niger, Bayelsa, Lagos, Ebonyi, Enugu, Abia, and Oyo. Right honorable Speaker, the House notes that the heavy rainfall that occurred over the weekend led to severe flooding in several communities in Anambra State, including towns like Obosi, Mpo, Ogidi, Oka, Ogbaru, around Nnewi, Onitsha Axis, and so many other communities around Anambra, and that residents of the affected areas, including women, children, the sick, and vulnerable, were displaced and rendered homeless. Also notes that the flooding disaster in Anambra State was widely reported by the news media, including the electronic media, with images and video clips of the affected areas. The House further notes with delight that the Federal Executive Council has given approval and directed release of the sum of 1.6 billion naira to the National Emergency Management Agency for onward distribution to 16 states affected by flooding to cushion the effect of the flooding disaster to the residents of the state. Saddened, however, that Anambra State was omitted from the list of beneficiaries of the flooding relief fund, despite the wide publicity of the unfortunate flooding incidents in Anambra State. Concerned that the exclusion of Anambra State as one of the beneficiaries of the flooding relief fund, it might be capable of creating some disaffection amongst the people of the state, and in particular, the people of our local governments of Idemili North, Idemili South, and the other 19 local governments of Anambra State, determined to ensure that Anambra State is included in the list of beneficiaries of the Flood Disaster Relief Fund, assuage any disaffection amongst the people. Right Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues, this House accordingly resolves to, 1, call on the federal government to direct the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to extend the flood relief disaster fund to the people of Anambra State, and further call on the National Emergency Management Agency to pay an urgent, very urgent working visit to Anambra State. I so move, Right Honourable Speaker, my dear colleagues. Thank you.
Seconder, Honourable Babajimi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Once again, my name is Babajimi Benson. I represent the very good people of Ikorodu Federal Constituency, Lagos State. I rise to second the motion ably moved by my friend, Honorable Chidoka. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
This is a straightforward motion. I don't think it doesn't require any elaborate debate. So there's no notice of amendment here.
Attending ad hoc committee that has not even been set up to look at float in general.
It has not. There's no notice of amendment here. But because I've made you acting whip, I must listen to you. Honorable Pategi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity given me to give the floor and information. The 1.6 billion naira referred to by my colleague has to do with the total sum of about 3.7 trillion that was released and approved by the Federal Executive Council yesterday. So what I will suggest is to actually invite the Minister of Finance, call on the Minister of Finance to come and properly brief the House on the details of the money, because it comes as money meant for various sectors of the economy. One, the intention is to reflate the economy by releasing money for pension, money to contractors, money to parastatals, and money to states that have been ravaged by the recent flood. So I would like that the House invite the Honourable Minister of Finance to properly brief the House on the 3.7 trillion that was approved over the next 3-year period, so that we are properly placed to make informed decisions on this issue.
Okay, if you want to craft an amendment, you just have to do it so that we can take a vote on it. Honourable Chris, your amendment.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, my distinguished colleagues. I remain Honourable Chris Emeka Azubo, representing Nigerian North South and the Ekusigo Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise to propose an amendment on prayer 1, which specifically says federal government. Because we, as also part of government, we are not part of the information that was given out. We will say the executive arm of government that took the decision not to include Anambra principally, like the minister that gave out the information to be, instead of saying federal government.
Okay, that's any seconder. Honorable E.J. Aboima.
Right Honourable Speaker and dear colleagues, my name is Honourable E.J. Agboanyima. I stand to second the motion ably moved by my honourable friend and colleagues. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Those in favour of the amendment say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honourable Pategi's amendment, so that we can take a vote on the motion.
Honourable Arman Patigi, representing the Dumoro Patigi Federal Constituency of Kwara State. The House calls on the Minister of Finance to brief the House on the details of the funds approved for release by the Federal Executive Council yesterday.
To brief the House, or to brief the House through its Committee on Finance?
To brief the House through its Committee on Finance.
Lady Seconder. Honourable Shehu Garba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague. My name is Shehu Garba Sarkinoma. I rise to second the amendment as ably moved by the Chairman, House Committee on Water Resources. I so second.
Those in favour of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Those in favor of the motion as amended say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable members, the first business of the day is presentation of two bills, and I invite the clerk to read the short titles.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, Nigeria Customs Service Bill 2017, first reading. Federal Roads Authority Bill 2017, first reading.
Honorable members, the second business of the day is presentation of two reports of the Committee on Justice, standing in the name of Honorable Razak Atunwa. The Deputy Chair will now present them on his behalf. Honorable members will recall the bills were referred to the committee on Thursday, 8 October 2015 and Tuesday, 22nd November 2016, respectively. Reports ready for presentation, and I now call on the Deputy Chair to present them.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues. Disabled blessing, I represent the good people of Port Harcourt Federal Constituency 2. I am a Rivers woman, and by the grace of God, the Deputy Chair, Committee on Justice. May I move that the House do receive the report of the Committee on Justice on a bill for an act to make it mandatory for the National Assembly to and approve statutory instrument before it becomes enforceable, and for related matters. And two, may I also move that the House do receive the report of the Committee on Justice on a bill for an act to make provision for a standard scale of fines and financial penalties imposed on courts, tribunals, other statutory instruments, and for related matters. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Honorable Adeogun.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. Albert Adeogun is my name, representing people of Ife Central, East, South and North of Ife Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from the source. I rise to second the motion as ably moved by the Deputy Chairman Justice. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Peace, please proceed and lay the reports. Honorable members, the third business of the day is presentation of report of the Committee on Electoral and Political Party Matters on the bill for an act to further amend the Electoral Act No. 6 of 2010 and for matters connected therewith. Standing in the name of Honorable Aishatu Jubril Duku. Honorable members will recall the bill was referred to the committee on Thursday, 4th May 2016. The report is ready for presentation, and Honorable Duku is now invited to present them.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I am Honorable Aishatu Jubril Duku, Jimbier Duku, member representing Dukuna for the Federal Constituency. I come from Gombe State. Mr. Speaker, by the special grace of Allah, I am the chairman of the House Committee on Electoral Matters and Political Party Matters. May I move that the House do receive the report of the Committee on Electoral and Political Party Matters on a bill for an act to further amend the Electoral Act No. 6 of 2010 and for matters connected therewith. The bills are HB 165, HB 174, HB 220, HB 429, HB 468, HB 484, HB 809, and HB 966. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Jega.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My name is Mohammed Umar Jega. I represent the people of Aleru Gondu Jega Federal Constituency of Kebbi State.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by my honorable colleagues. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Duku, please proceed and lay the report. First order of the day, honorable colleagues, is the third reading of a bill for an act to establish the National Assembly Budget and Research Office, which shall provide the National Assembly with objective, timely, and non-partisan analysis needed for economic and budget decisions and for other related matters. Honorable members will recall that the House adopted the report of the Committee of the Whole on the bill on Tuesday, 11th July 2017. Therefore, call on the Leader of the House to move the bill be now read the third time. Chairman, Rules and Business. Okay, acting leader is there, so we are safe.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, my name is Mohamed Tar Monguno. I represent Marte Monguno Nganzai, Federal Constituency of Borno State, acting leader of the House by grace of Mr. Speaker. I hereby move for a bill for an act to establish the National Assembly Budget and Research Office, which shall provide the National Assembly with objective, timely, and non-partisan analysis needed for economic and budget decisions and for other related matters. House Bill 377. I so move.
Deputy Chair, Rules and Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Dr. Bodia Yorinde. I represent Owo and Ose Federal Constituency. I rise to second the motion ably moved by Honorable Moguno, the Leader of the House for now. The acting Leader of the House for now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Clerk is invited to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to establish the National Assembly Budget and Research Office, which shall provide the National Assembly with objective, timely, and non-partisan analysis needed for economic and budget decisions and for other related matters. Third reading.
Bill read the third time and passed. The second order of the day is commencement of debate on the General Principles Bill for an Act to repeal the Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2011 and reenact the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act to provide measures for the prevention and prohibition of money laundering in Nigeria and for other related matters, standing in the names of the House Leader and Honorable Edward Pajok. Honorable members who recall the bills were consolidated on Wednesday, 8 March 2016. And now I invite Honorable Pajok, because the leader is not around, to move that the bill be now read a second time. Honorable Pajok, please.
Right, Honorable Speaker, my colleagues, my name is Edward Pajok. I represent just south, just east of Plateau State. Mr. Speaker, may I move for the second reading of two bills, a bill for an act to repeal the Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2011 and reenact the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act to provide measures for the prevention and prohibition of money laundering in Nigeria and for other related matters, HB 390 and 410. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Chairman, Foreign Relations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for yielding the floor to me again. My name is Nana Elendu KJ, member representing Bende Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm from Abia State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as moved by Honorable Edward Pajok. I so second.
Honorable Pajok can now lead the debate.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, let me from the outset say I am in a quandary. And let me say why I am on the horns of a dilemma. There are two bills. and they are very important bills. The first is an executive bill on money laundering, and it has been here for a very long time. I would have wished that the House leader himself were here to move the motion, because my own bill, from my legislative brief which I've circulated, would seem to even derogate from what they brought, the executive bill. But it is very important for us to bring some salient facts, because I am even advising that the executive may have to even withdraw and look at that bill, because it's not well drafted, and it violates some of the rules of separation of powers and even the fundamental rights of Nigerians.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, my own bill seeks to amend a few sections. For instance, the existing Money Laundering Act, Section 1, says if no person or body corporate shall make or accept cash payment of a sum exceeding 500,000 naira or its equivalent in the case of an individual, or 2 million naira or its equivalent in the case of a body corporate, except in a transaction through a financial institution. Mr. Speaker, that's the present law. So with this present law, if you even give another person, you are buying an article for 600,000 naira, you have already committed an offense. You can't have cash beyond 500,000 naira, it's already an offense. That's the existing law. So I am seeking to repeal those sections, because they are not in tandem with the laws of natural justice. Mr. Speaker, in other climes, there are financial limits. If you are, let's say, traveling to the United States, they'll give you this U.S. border customs card, and you fill in the card. If you have any amount of money beyond $10,000, you declare. It's not illegal for you to have even $1 million cash, but declare. It's the non-declaration that will constitute an offense, and therefore you will not forfeit all that money, and you can even be fined and penalized in other ways. But that's not the law in Nigeria. In the bill that the executive has now brought, in fact, so many of the provisions, they are saying they didn't even put a financial limit now. They are now saying the Attorney General will now make regulations to determine the financial or the prescribed amount. Mr. Speaker, we are now delegating a power to to the executive to now make regulations for us. What if tomorrow they now repeat the same limit that we now have, 500,000 naira? What do we do? It now becomes the law, and we will have no one else to blame. There are so many other financial regulations that there are powers vested on the Attorney General or some other bodies. In fact, they say some of the anti-corruption agencies have the power to impose penalties as may be prescribed by the Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, I think that these are very fundamental issues. There is no way that we must delegate such very fundamental powers without knowing what those penalties are. I have taken the trouble in my legislative brief to give a comparative analysis with the United States. In their own Money Laundering Act, they have limits. They say if you transact any business that is of suspicious origin beyond $10,000 then you can be tried, or you are guilty of an offense. There are amounts. So there must be amounts that constitute red flags, and there must be recourse back to Parliament. But for us to just delegate wholesale some of the legislative powers of this Parliament, I do not think, Mr. Speaker, that it is in order. That's why I'm making this appeal that, yes, it's a very important bill. Yes, it's a very important law. Yes, this Parliament is also on the same page with the executive on the need to combat corruption. But the right things ought to be done. There are so many gray areas. I've even conferred with some of my colleagues, and when some of them speak, you even hear some of the gray areas, so that Nigerians do not just think as if, oh, National Assembly, corruption is fighting corruption, we're against it. No, but let them do the right things. Let's have proper laws in place, then we can enact them. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Rules and Business, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Jeff. I represent the good people of Buruku, my dear colleagues. I'm from Benue State. Mr. Speaker, I just want to guide, because I think Honorable Pajok is taking a wrong approach to this bill. These are two bills that have been consolidated. In all of what he's saying, he appears to be shooting the other leg of the bill. I think what should happen is that he should have gone ahead to tell us the merits of his own bill. Even as the leader is not around, the bill has been consolidated. It will be sent over to a standing committee to be reworked. Whatever concerns are will be worked at that level. But all of the time he has stood up is he has been spending it trying to shoot down the executive bill. I don't think that's a correct approach to take to this. So subsequent contributors should be guided that we have one bill. You cannot cut one leg of the bill and throw away. Now it is one bill, no longer two bills. Thank you.
Deputy Rules and Business, was that what you wanted to say? So that we can move on. Okay, Honorable Keita.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I would like to adopt what the Rules and Business Committee Chairman just said. Even though the mover of the bill, the presenter is not on ground, I think this is an interesting bill that most of us have been waiting for. The issues raised by my senior Mr. Pajok are very valid. However, sir, the main issues of this bill, as brought by the executive, is meant to block the leakages of the existing act. For example, what Femi's bill seeks to achieve is to make sure that those laws are really complied with by the banks. If you look at the quantum of our assets, offshores of these countries, they all went out of this country through banks. Because the banks are not imposing the rules as it is, because they have a window to do that. Secondly, we have banks having phony accounts that bears somebody's name and are having other people's picture of them, as if those people with the pictures are the owners of those. We have seen it in this country. So this bill is very important. It should not just be discarded because of these little technicalities. I think if there are any legal technicalities, that what we need to do is to go back to the drawing board and make sure that this thing did. Even from the point of view that he raised, that we have rules that said no bank should give 500,000, above 500,000 to an individual. As of today, we know that most banks give you as much as you want if you are ready to play with them. These are the kind of issues that we are talking about here. You will see it in their bank that we are mandated to report any transaction above 1 million naira or 10 million naira in the case of corporate agencies. But what do we do? What happens? They are only there because we know all these things happen. So this bill is very important and is key to our financial security. And if we really want to get things right, and if you really want to make sure that corruption is completely stamped out, we must first address these issues with the banks. Our banks are active collaborators in the corruption that happens in this country. You have banks that avoid the rules and ignore the laws just because they want to make money out of the loot. And these are the same banks that are used as vehicle to transfer this loot out of this country. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this bill is very important, it's very timely, and this bill should be taken, should be seen here it should be taken comprehensively. Where we have issues, with all due respect, sir, where we have issues, we can come back to but we should not allow this bill to die. I support this bill in its entirety, and I urge our members to do so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Monguno.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, my name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Marte Monguno Ganzai, Federal Constituency of Borno State. I wholeheartedly and fully support the second reading of the consolidated bill in order to cope the incidents of money laundering, which has negatively impacted on our image among Committee of Nations. With regard to the observations raised by the learned FN, I concur with the observation raised by him that the National Assembly, as it is presently constituted, is not a Father Christmas to be donating powers that was conferred on us by the Constitution to the executive arm of government. We should legislate in such a way that it is clear and unambiguous, and not to resort to donate powers to the executive arm of government, because absolute power corrupts absolutely and breeds excessive or misuse and abuse of power. As such, I support that this bill should pass second reading. When it goes to the public hearing, all the nitty-gritty as it affects the modus operandi of this bill will be trashed out in the course of the public hearing when experts come and give their own opinions. So I wholeheartedly support the second reading of this bill, but with a caveat that when it goes to the committee stage, we should not donate the powers that was given to us by the Constitution to the executive arm of government, because these powers that this bill seeks to give to the Attorney General is so enormous that we should not just donate it to the Attorney General. Which should be exercised by the National Assembly. Thank you.
From this row, Honorable EJ.
Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, I remain Honorable E.J. Agboanyima, representing the good people of Ego Ikubaha Federal Constituency, Edo State. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think some few months ago, I brought this bill to this Honorable House. And looking at this bill today, I don't think it was consolidated along with my own bill, Mr. Speaker. Like I have said before, Mr. Speaker, to you on this very important bill, which was formerly executive bill that will be translated to members' bills. And there are so many gray areas, Mr. Speaker, that have to do in curbing the corruption that have eaten Nigeria deeply, that have kept us in state of comatose for so long, Mr. Speaker. The war against corruption, or the fight against corruption, should be a situation where every Nigerian should support. And this is one bill that is very, very important. It's paramount to the fact that it's a bill that we try as much to combat the menace, even though it cannot eradicate 100%. Mr. Speaker, this bill does contain some very, very important section regarding that of Nigeria Financial Intelligence Center. And I'm happy with my honorable colleagues, senior advocate, but unfortunately the leader is not here, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, to throw his own weight on these bills. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Chairman of Rules and Business the reason why my own bill was not part of this, was not consolidated among these very important bills. Because I believe we are all here to represent our various constituencies, and we want to see how this bill can at least cater for the well-being by putting Nigeria first on the issue of corruption, because this bill, talking about the NFIC, is an important bill to help, especially the bank industry, that is also collaborators that have defrauded this country. We cannot, exempt them out of this, and this bill will speak for itself. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. God bless you.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my highly respected colleagues. I remain Honorable Leo Kuwe-Ogo, representing the Soko Federal Constituency, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues. I'm from Delta State. Let me first and foremost appreciate the fact that money laundering, if not properly managed, well handled, can end up destroying the economy of any nation. Can you call these people to order, please? It is extremely important that when we look at the bill itself, agree to the fact that the bill might have some level of international outlook, but what we need to look at in this bill at this particular time is the merit and the demerit of this bill. And the concept is clearly to check money laundering. But the fact remains that when we get to look at the bill itself, there are need for us to look at it in domesticating it into the present reality in our country. And I give some very clear examples. We have people that deal in various commodities, and our economy, clearly, as you know, is more of a cash-based economy. So you may have a scenario or a situation where transactions might not probably be handled within the banking sector. So we will have to look at some of these whole challenges so long as we can look at the legalities of the whole transaction. Clearly, as you know, when you go into commodity buying, as it gets into when probably you are buying cattle from inside the bush, there must be some level of transaction that needs some great amount of cash. How do you handle such situations? Or where you go into the bush and you need to do some purchases. It becomes extremely important that at the committee level, we must address these fundamentals. But anything, and I say anything that will restrict corruption to its barest minimum, not just pre-singing corruption, but anything that will address corruption at its root, I think it is something that we must support collectively. So I want to commend the executive and also our brother Pajok for coming up with such a bill, but I am convinced that when we get to the committee level, mostly when we get into the consideration of the bill, we will do justice to the bill itself. We will clearly dot the I's there and cross the various T's. So I feel that we'll give the bill all the necessary support. Thank you.
Honorable Shehu Garba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My honorable colleague. I want to lend my voice. My name is Shehu Garba Sarkinoma. I represent Jamal Sanga Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I want to lend my voice to the second reading of this bill because it is a bill that is very fundamental and is at the heart of the current effort by the government to reduce to the barest minimum the level of corruption in our system. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, during one of his recent engagements with the House, did draw attention of the House to this particular bill, which he felt we were foot-dragging on in passing it. And he considered the bill as one of the cardinal bills that the administration has been pushing forward in order to further give teeth to the current effort to reduce corruption in our society. And as a leader, minority leader,
silence, please. Please, honorable members, silence.
Has an international
and everyone
dimension.
should go back to his seat, please.
Because Nigeria, as a country,
Mr.
is
Speaker,
often
sir,
cited.
we need some protection here, around here, please.
Nigeria is often cited at international fora as being one of those countries with very weak laws that have to do with corruption. And this particular bill is one bill that has been designed in order to bring our legislation in line with the international best practices, in order to reduce the avenue through which corruption is perpetrated in our society. Of course, any transaction that goes through the financial system can always be traced, and you can always determine its legitimacy or otherwise, as opposed to transactions that are conducted through cash movement. But as it has been said, whatever observation we have regarding this bill, whatever weaknesses or challenges that might be faced, by virtue of the nature of our society, where the predominant segment of our people reside in the rural area and you have to conduct transactions by movement of cash, I think at the committee level, we should be able to tinker with these two bills in order to adopt them to our local environment, which no doubt can be done at the committee stage. But I think as far as this war that we are fighting, as far as Nigeria is concerned, we cannot be seen to be foot dragging in passing this legislation on money laundering, which I think has been outstanding for a period of time. And I think the only way this House can send very clear signals that we are in tune with the executive arm of government in the fight against corruption is to quickly pass this bill through the second reading and have it go to public hearing, so that what we ought to do and all the tinkering that we need to do in order to make this law, to domesticate it and align it with our local situations, can quickly be done. I want to support and call on all my colleagues to support the second reading of the bill. I so submit, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Lal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Lal Abakar. I represent the people of Yola North, Yola South, and Gire. I'm from Adamawa State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this bill because the issue of money laundering, if you look at the history of money laundering in Nigeria, it was first enacted in 1995 by Money Laundering Bill number 3 as a result of your United Nations Convention and then the Financial Action Task Force. So after that, while practicing the Act, we discovered a lot of lacunas in the bill, and some cannot fit in our local circumstances. So this repeal of this bill becomes very necessary. If you look at, I'm supporting it in the sense that it expands even the definition of what money laundering is. The provisions take care of narcotics, substance, money that comes as a result of narcotics is also regarded as money laundering. If you look at the provision of the bill, it says trafficking in illicit drug, counterfeiting products, environmental crimes, murder, kidnapping, they are all taken as money laundering. So it is a very ambitious bill that the executive is trying to wipe out the issue of money laundering. It's not only confined to the issue of money, it goes beyond that. The only thing that I want to sound a word of caution is, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, if you look at the provision of the bill, particularly section 4 of the bill, it says that it is immaterial who carries the act. So even if he's a minor, you see it is inconsistent with the provision of some of our laws. And likewise, it talks about who benefits from the money laundering. It talks also whether the act occurs before or after passing this bill. So if you look at that, Mr. Speaker, there is need to work at a committee level, because that provision is inconsistent with Section 9, with Section 4, subsection 9 of the Constitution, which says that a criminal act, you cannot make it with respective effect. So, Mr. Speaker, it's a very good bill. It's a laudable bill. And it set up even the commission, a council of money laundering, how we will report, how banks are supposed to do.
what they call a know your customer. So I support this bill, but there is need to do a lot of work at the committee levels. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I urge my colleagues to support this bill for a second reading. Thank you.
Honorable Toby, and then Honorable Nenna will round up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Toby Okechukwu. I represent an area of Gwaji River. I'm from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank our colleague, Mr. Pajok, and the executive for bringing this bill. It is very critical, and it shows that the executive and the legislature are on the same page with regard to the issue of fighting corruption. Mr. Speaker, there is a difference between fighting corruption and fighting corrupt people, where you target individuals. Fighting corruption is systematic, and it drives and dwells on method. And this is one fundamental way of fighting corruption, to establish a system, to establish a law that guides the society and ensure that we act based on the rules of law and not rules of men. So I thank them so much. Well, I believe strongly that at the hearing stage, we'll have the opportunity of x-raying all the issues that have been raised. Mr. Speaker, you know, stipulating a specific fine or a specific amount that will be subject to criminality has to do with fiscal policy changes of government. You will appreciate that for the past 2 years, the Naira has nosedived significantly from 197 to the dollar to a time when it was almost 500. So if you had specified a particular amount, it would be meaningless. Now, we have to look at it, whether it's good to specify a particular amount or whether it is something that will be subject to some kind of administrative measure by whoever is in charge or the Attorney General. So I strongly believe that we need to look at it and take prompt action and ensure that it passes with the speed of light. So I plead with my colleagues to support this bill. Thank you.
Honorable Nenna will round off.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for yielding the floor to me. Nana Elendu KJ, member representing Bende Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm from Abia State. Mr. Speaker, like all my colleagues who have spoken before me, I'd like to thank Honorable Pajok as well as the Leader of the House for bringing before us this very important piece of legislation. Mr. Speaker, sir, the need for this law, in spite of what the concerns that have been raised by Honorable Pajok are, cannot be overemphasized. The jury is out, Mr. Speaker. There's a consensus that the bane of our very existence as a country lies solely at the foot of corruption. Mr. Speaker, also, in other climes, and I react to my brother, Honorable Mine, where he said that the bill that was brought up by the executive speaks to other things. In other climes, Mr. Speaker, sir, this bill is called the Anti-Money Laundering Bill and the Counter-Terrorism Financing Bill. And that's the reason I believe that that is in the body of the executive bill. But, Mr. Speaker, let me say that this bill, and of course the minority leader as well, pointed out to the fact that this bill has international dimensions. And indeed it does. But, Mr. Speaker, I shall try to draw the history of this bill. In 1995, Decree 3 was signed into law by this country, and it was the Anti-Money Laundering Act. But that law, Mr. Speaker, sir, was only with regards to drugs, with proceeds from drugs. Mr. Speaker, sir, Nigeria was the first country in Africa to have signed that kind of money laundering bill. Nigeria was the first country in Africa to have formed the EFCC. Nigeria was the first country in Africa to have formed the FIU. Nigeria led the charge with ECOWAS countries to form the Regional Anti-Money Laundering Act. Unfortunately, and it's called GIABA, which is an anti-money laundering arrangement that ensures that in the region that Nigeria leads the way against anti-money laundering. But, Mr. Speaker, it became even more pertinent for us as a country to trace this bill because, Mr. Speaker, there is also the belief that terrorism financing is a proceed of money laundering. And so, Mr. Speaker, the belief that as a country that has fought the scourge of terrorism as well, Mr. Speaker, this bill is very important to us as a country. But let me say that in spite of all the firsts that Nigeria has recorded with regard to this anti-money laundering, Nigeria is still one of the few countries around the world that have been blacklisted by the Financial Institution on Tracking Anti-Money Laundering, the FATF, because, Mr. Speaker, their claim is that we don't have strong legislation that criminalize anti-money laundering in the ways that they want it. They believe we do not have an architecture that is strong enough to deal with this anti-money laundering. And so, when, of course, they also say to us that there are certain pieces of legislation that must work hand in hand with the anti-money laundering bill, the mutual assistance in criminal matters, the asset forfeiture bills. And they say that if we have not done that, then we cannot necessarily say that as a country that we're committed to the fight against corruption. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, as we have brought this law, in spite of what the little ifs, buts, or maybes may be, Mr. Speaker, I think it's imperative that as a House that shows commitment to fighting corruption, that this House realizes that time is of the essence. Nigeria's GDP, the size of the Nigerian economy, the population of Nigeria, the engagements between Nigerian financial institutions and financial institutions abroad are so tight that we must, as a country, show the commitment to passing these anti-money laundering laws. Mr. Speaker, let me also say that, of course, we are called the giants of Africa. But, Mr. Speaker, for us as well, and this is speaking purely from a foreign policy point of view, that if indeed Nigeria wants to lead in the Committee of Nations, and I have quoted copiously from Mr. President's inaugural speech where he said that Nigeria will be willing to act in any leadership capacity that she finds herself. Mr. Speaker, truth be told, in the African region, South Africa has been accepted into the global FATF, which is, of course, the financial institution that ties in all these money launderers and can track funds. Egypt is well on its way to doing that. Nigeria has been rejected once. Our review is coming up again. And, Mr. Speaker, sir, acceptability or lack of is predicated on the strength of the legislation and the commitment of government to indeed fighting corruption. And as Honorable Toby said, that there's a difference between fighting corrupt people and creating a platform, an architecture that creates an enabling environment for us to actually say that it is not only about echo, but it's about commitment. And therefore, it is based on this premise, Mr. Speaker, that I ask my colleagues that in spite of what the concerns are about the powers of the Attorney General, the situating of the FIU institution, whether it's with the EFCC, whether they want to create another institution, which of course I have my reservations about that, that we let it go to the public hearing. We conduct a public hearing, listen to the public, understand that, so that at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, sir, when our review comes up in the not too distant future, that Nigeria will be very well positioned for us to actually join the Committee of Nations in a way that gives us the fillip that we require as we seek to attract foreign direct investment and so on and so forth. So, Mr. Speaker, I hope that my colleagues will look very favorably to this piece of legislation and pass it so that it can go on to the public hearings I so submit. Thank you very much.
Honourable colleague, the caution is that the bill be now read a second time. Those in favour of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Clerk is now invited to read the long title of the bill.
Honourable Speaker, honourable members, a bill for an act to repeal the Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2011 and reenact the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act to provide measures for the prevention and prohibition of money laundering in Nigeria and for other related matters. Second reading.
Bill is referred to Committee on Financial Crimes. The third order of the day is commencement of debate on the General Principles Bill for an Act to establish the National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration to provide, among other things, for its functions and other matters relating to educational planning and administration in Nigeria and for related matters, standing in the name of Honorable Oluwole Oke. Honorable members who recall the bill was read the first time on Wednesday, 17th May 2017. And I invite Honorable Oke to move that the bill be now read a second time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, my fellow colleagues. I remain Oluwole Oke, representing Obokun Oreade Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, I'm from Osun State. Mr. Speaker, may I move that a bill for an act to establish the National Institute for Education Planning and Administration to provide, among other things, for its functions and other matters related to education planning and administration in Nigeria and for related matters. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second that the bill be read a second time. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Oke, please lead the debate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, my fellow colleagues. The legislative agenda envisioned and put in place by this Parliament, Mr. Speaker, has started yielding results through a proactive, robust legislative engagement via oversighting, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the course of engagement with National Institute for Education, Planning and Administration, we discovered, sir, that this institution came into being via multilateral and bilateral understanding in 1992. Mr. Speaker, this institution is located in Ondo Township in Ondo State, and it has a working population of over 2,000 personnel. The institution, Mr. Speaker, was set up to train high-level manpower professionals in the education sector, Mr. Speaker. And since 1992, Mr. Speaker, this agency has been drawing funds from a national budget without any law backing it. There's no law backing up the institution. Now, the multilateral agencies and international agencies who support this institution have now reneged to make further contributions to support the agency because we are yet to set up this institution in line with the provisions of our Constitution. So, Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't want to belabor us or waste our time. It's a very straightforward matter. The institution is on ground. We have appropriated funds to the institution since 1992, but all the same, they have no legal backing. So this bill seeks to formalize and legalize the existence of the institution. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It's a straightforward bill. Except someone wants to speak against the bill, I want to put a question. So the question is the bill be now read a second time. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. And I invite the clerk to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to establish the National Institute for Educational Planning and Administration and to provide, among other things, for its functions and other matters relating to educational planning and administration in Nigeria and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to the Committee on Tertiary Education and Services. Fourth order of the day, honorable colleagues, commencement of debate on the General Principles Bill for an Act to establish the National Cotton, Textile and Garment CDG Development Council to provide for the promotion and facilitation of cotton production, marketing and standardization, investment in cotton value chain, textiles and garments as a panacea to achieving self-sufficiency in cotton, textile, and garment industry in Nigeria and for related matters, standing in the name of Honorable Abubakar Husseini Moriki. Honorable members will recall that the bill was read the first time on Thursday, 6th April 2017. I now invite Honorable Moriki to move that the bill be now read the second time.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Abubakar Husseini Moriki. I represent the people of Shinkafi and Zurmi Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Zamfara State. Mr. Speaker, may I move that a bill for an act to establish the National Cotton, Textile and Garment CTG Development Council to provide for the promotion and facilitation of cotton production, marketing and standardization, investment in cotton value chain, textiles and garments as a panacea to achieving self-sufficiency in cotton, textiles and garment industry in Nigeria and for related matters, HB 1003, I so move.
Any seconder, Honorable Shuaibu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my dear honorable colleagues. My name is Abdurrahman Shuaibu. I represent Mubi North, Mubi South, and Maiha Federal Constituency. I'm from Adamawa State. I rise to second the motion that the bill be read for the second time as ably moved by Honorable Abubakar Husseini Moriki. I so second.
Honorable Moriki, please lead the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable colleagues. Once again, my name is Abubakar Husseini Moriki. I represent the people of Shinkafi and Zurmi Federal Constituency. I am from Zamfara State. Mr. Speaker, the long title of this bill is a bill for an act to establish the National Cotton, Textile and Garment CTG Development Council to provide for the promotion and the facilitation of cotton production, marketing and the standardization, investment in cotton value chain, textiles and garments as a panacea to achieving self-sufficiency in cotton, textiles and garment industry in Nigeria and for other related matters. Mr. Speaker, you would recall that towards the end of the year 2016, you charged the honorable members of this House to come up with motions and bills that would conceivably facilitate exiting this Nigerian economy from the recession we found ourselves and to place the economy on the path of sustainable growth and development. Mr. Speaker, it is in the context of that call that I initiated this bill. Indeed, it is a realization of the critical role played by cotton, textiles and garment industry in Nigeria, realizing that it is virtually decaying to the extent that, as a matter of concern, if nothing is done consciously and urgently, Mr. Speaker, the nation may find itself in a disturbing state of affairs. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, before I give you the structural layout of this bill, permit me to reflect our minds to where we used to be, where we are currently,
Chairman Finance,
and indeed,
Chairman Finance,
where
please.
are we heading to in relation to our CTG sector in Nigeria. Indeed, as you are all aware, honorable colleagues, the development of any nation's cotton, CTG, usually starts with cotton. In Nigeria, the Cotton Marketing Board were established in the 70s as a policy designed to provide for the development and the sustainable marketing structure as a foundation for the existence and development of CTG sector in this country. This policy, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, was on the path of achieving greatness. Indeed, many textiles, many ginneries, many garment outlets were established in the country. Investment in cotton value chain was at its peak. Employment opportunities were massively evident. Besides this, Mr. Speaker, what it used to be 40 billion. Classified this marketing. This led to loss.
The first brought by committee. And two on that note,